In this video, I'm going to give a full training on how to build the perfect design portfolio. Now, this training is usually a paid training inside of my private community, Paid Pro, but today I'm going to be releasing it on YouTube for you. So in this training, I'm going to be going deep on every single aspect of building out your portfolio, including how to design your website, how to display your work, and how to attract new clients. So I've broken this training down into 3 different categories to make it easy. Number 1 is going to be critical portfolio tips that you must know. Then number 2 is your homepage, and number 3 are your case study pages. You're going to see live examples of what all of this should look like, and by the end of this, you should have a really clear checklist of everything that you need to do to improve your portfolio today. So let's get into it. All right, let's start with critical portfolio tips. Now, when a prospect comes to your website or your portfolio, they have a specific order of priorities. First, they want to see your work. They want to make sure that you can even do what it is that they need done. Next, they want something that helps them trust you, because if they can't trust you or they feel like you're going to be dishonest or potentially screw them over, they're not even going to care about price or anything else. Third, then, is the price. They want to know if you can do what you say you can do within their budget. If you're too expensive, it's going to scare them off. And in a lot of cases, if it's not expensive enough, it will also scare them off. Fourth, they're going to look at your process, or in other words, how easy are you going to be to work with and how quickly can you get the job done? And then finally is your availability. So can you get it done within their time frame, and can you get started as soon as they would like to? So we want to keep these 5 priorities in mind and make sure that we can overcome any concerns or objections that they might have around these 5 priorities. So a basic rule of thumb is make sure on every page of your portfolio that you are giving people what they want. Far too many times I see designers trying to get fancy with their portfolios, and they try to teach people about web design or the importance of web design, or they talk about the features and the tools that they use, or they're just vague and they don't say up front what it is that they do or how much it costs. And these are all things that are just going to damage trust, and they're going to make people leave your website. So instead, what you want to do is show them your work right away, because that's what they're looking for. Don't make it difficult to actually see what it is that you do. You also need to be really clear about results and benefits, right? Don't focus on the features or the tools or how you do it. Focus on what it's going to do for them in terms of results, whether that is completed work or search traffic or search rankings or whatever it is that you're going to promise within your work. Make sure that you highlight those on your portfolio. And finally, be transparent about your process. If you can put them at ease about what it's going to be like to work with you, this is going to resolve a majority of the other concerns that they have, because they're going to want to work with you and they're going to look past any other concerns or reservations that they might have. Now, in order to prep for the next tip, I want to talk briefly about the psychology behind the stop sign. So the stop sign has got to be one of the more widely recognized symbols. It's big, it's red, it has the word stop. It's pretty obvious what it is that this sign wants you to do. And for whatever reason, us as human beings, when we're driving, even when nobody's around, we respect that symbol, and for the most part, we all stop before continuing on. And so this really is a great example of the importance of these symbols that just do something to the human brain. And there are actually a number of different symbols that we can utilize to control what goes on inside of our prospects' brains. So a few of these symbols of authority that you could use are badges, stars, company logos of known companies, smiling faces, different icons like lock, shield, or check mark, certain colors like blue, orange, and green, familiar fonts, layouts, and styles, and personalized copy even. So these are all things that you can utilize that even if your prospect doesn't realize it, it's doing something to their brain. It's building trust, it's building authority, it's getting them to want to know more and to want to work with you. So just like the stop sign, we need to do our best to use these recognizable icons in a way that will help us land more clients. Now, we're going to talk about testimonials more later on in this training, but I think this is a great example of a way that you can utilize a lot of different trust symbols to build that trust and authority. So the testimonials over here on the right, they do a fine job, right? I pulled these from some other portfolio websites, and they're just basic testimonials. They have what the client said, and they have the client's name. But in this example to the left, this is something that I constantly try to do when I display a testimonial, is I'm going to use the 5 stars. I'm going to use the color orange. You can see down on the bottom right, I'm using a recognizable logo and incorporating the colors green and blue as well. And I'm using a smiling face from my client. So you can tell that this example on the left is going to draw a lot more attention than those to the right. And unless people really read through those, they might not even recognize that they are testimonials or reviews. So make sure that you use this opportunity when displaying your testimonials to utilize those trust badges and other symbols that will establish trust. Okay, so there are 2 more things that I want to talk about before we jump into your homepage. And number 1 is KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid. So the reason I bring this up is less is more when it comes to your portfolio. You don't need so much content. You don't need so many images. You don't need all of that fluff. What you need to do is just get down to showing them what they want to see and then getting them in the door to talk to you. So you want to make sure that your portfolio is appealing to the widest range of prospects. You want to focus on your client projects rather than having the focus be on your website or the design of your website. And then you want to be easy to navigate and consume. This is another thing that I see a lot, where designers try to blow people away with this super customized portfolio that has all these interactions and animations, and it just frustrates the client and it takes away the attention from your case studies, which is what your clients are looking for to begin with. So always remember, when it comes to your portfolio, keep it simple. Don't overdo it. Don't spend too much time on it. Get it to the right spot and let it do its work. And the final critical tip is the 2 viewport rule. I want you to remember this with your own portfolio site and any other website that you build, and I'm sure this is something that you already understand, but very few people are going to scroll past the first viewport, and almost nobody is going to scroll past the second viewport. So you can see the examples of this right here. This is the first viewport in green, the second in orange, and then below that, everything is in red. So we need to make sure that you are showing as much as possible in the first 2 viewports to make sure that you're giving people what they're looking for. And so we'll talk about more of this in a second, but you want to make sure that your message, your call to action, your examples, your case studies, all of that should be at least within the first 2 viewports, if not above the fold in the first viewport. So that's it for our critical tips. Let's talk about your homepage. About 95% of the time, the first thing that people see on your website is your homepage. So you need to make sure that your homepage does a great job of stating what it is that you do and who you do it for. This gets much easier when you have a specific niche. Even if you don't, though, just make sure that you're really clear about who you're talking to. You want to make people feel like you're speaking to them when they land on your site. So a few examples of this are branding and digital solutions for VC, art, and tech companies, right? You're saying what it is that you do and who you do it for. The other example is we are a web design studio based in St. Louis. Our studio specializes in building custom websites for iconic architects, interior designers, and home builders. So this messaging is super specific. Not only is it saying what they do and who they do it for, but it's also saying where they are located, which can appeal to a lot of people that are close to that area. And then finally, a Webflow expert agency helping startups and design agencies build beautiful experiences on Webflow. So take these examples and then apply these same principles to your portfolio, because the more specific you get with your messaging on your homepage, the easier it's going to be to convert those people that land on your page into leads and then clients. Now, the other thing that your homepage must have is a strong call to action. Probably the most common call to actions are contact us, call us, inquire about a project. But I would invite you to get a little bit more creative with your calls to action. They can be things like book a strategy call, get a free project quote, request a proposal, have a no pressure Zoom call, or text me about a project. These are all different than what people are going to see on other websites, and it's going to make it easier and more appealing for them to contact you. Your homepage also needs to have very obvious social proof. Now, we talked about the psychology of the stop sign and how other badges and symbols are going to instill trust and make people want to work with you. So if you need a few certificate badges, I'll include a couple links of free badges that you can get down in the description. But there are several free courses that you can take and paid courses that will give you a badge that you can display on your website. But the first and probably easiest is to just display your Google review rating. Get a couple reviews on Google, and then you can display the Google logo. You can put your Google rating out of 5 stars. That's a great place to start. The other thing that your homepage must do is lead your prospects to your case studies. Too often we beat around the bush or we push our case studies down to the bottom of our homepage or within some drop-down link in our navigation. And really our case studies should be front and center. So I've got a couple good examples on the left, which are actual client sites that I've built. And then I've got some examples on the right, which are, I would say, the standard. That's something that a lot of designers do. And honestly, the ones on the right probably look aesthetically more pleasing, but the ones on the left are so much more effective. And they're more effective for a number of reasons. First off, I'm showing way more of the project, way more of the actual website, whereas the one on the right is just showing like little teasers, and so they're not as clickable, right? The other thing that I'm doing is using a lot of variety in colors and the types of websites that I've built, and this has a higher chance of somebody seeing a website that is exactly what they want to have, right? It appealed to them because of a certain style or a certain color. And so the more variation that you have, the higher chance you have of catching someone's attention. Now, these, of course, should be clickable links that take people then to your case study pages, which we're going to break those down here in a minute, but make sure that you are showing these as soon as possible on your homepage. So I want to take a quick pause just to remind you that this is normally a training inside of Paid Pro, and I've been really excited to share it with you all. But if you want more very specific trainings just like this one on how to run your design business, how to land new clients, we have tons of trainings inside of Paid Pro. So if you'd like to consider joining us, not only do you get those trainings, you get my entire resource library, all of my templates, and you get to join us twice a month for Zoom calls where we do some awesome group coaching and get to know one another. So if you're interested in it or just want to learn more, go to paidpro.com. I'll leave a link right up here in the corner. Now, one of my favorite things to do is golf, and I love the phrase drive for show, putt for dough. And to explain a little bit about what this means, driving is your first hit at every hole. It's when you've got your biggest club and you're hitting it the farthest. And so when you drive, you do that for show. It's exciting. A lot of people talk about the people that can drive it the furthest. But the most important part is the putting. That's when you're on the green doing little hits to get it into the hole. And so this phrase, drive for show, putt for dough, basically means there are a lot of people that can drive the ball far and show off, but at the end of the day, the people that make all the money are the ones that can putt, that can do the little things. So I have changed this phrase to have it say a homepage for show, case studies for dough. Because at the end of the day, the thing that's going to make you the most money are your case studies, not your homepage, not your about page, but your case studies where you're displaying your work. Now, the illustration here to the right shows that when people land on those different pages, your homepage, services page, or about page, there are going to be people that contact you and end up becoming a client. But there's not going to be as many, and typically speaking, at least in my experience, they're not going to pay you as much. They're not going to have as high of budgets. And then, of course, there's going to be a lot that just never take action or say no. However, if you can get people from those pages into your case study pages, which is illustrated by this second funnel, you can see that there still will be people that say no or don't take action, but those that do are going to pay you way more. They're going to be much better prospects, much better clients, and the whole situation is going to be better for you. So you might be wondering, why is this? Well, the reason is when people find your case study pages and they see your work, it does a few things for them. It's going to help them already know that you're good at what you do. There's already perceived value in your work. They're already going to revere you as an expert. They already know that they want to work with you because they've seen your work and they know you're a good fit. They've already had a lot of their concerns resolved on your case study page, so you're not going to have to deal with those concerns when you get on a call with them. And finally, they're already primed and prepped, and they've been taught about things like price, timeline, process. So they're going to be prepared to jump into the project rather than having to start from ground zero on your first sales call. So for this reason, you can have your homepage, services page, and about page for show. But at the end of the day, the thing that's going to make you the most money, the most dough, is your case study pages. All right, so we're diving into the good part, your case study pages. I want to start this off by sharing with you the 9 case study commandments. And I've got these written all fancy in Old English in hopes that you remember them. Okay, number 1 is thou shalt not let them leave thy website. So this means don't link out to your client projects from your case studies. You don't want people actually going to their website. You want to keep them on your website. So instead, you're going to use photos and images of those projects, but you're going to have them inside your own website. Number 2 is thou shalt show thine work with haste. Like I mentioned before, show your case studies as soon as possible, at least in the first 2 viewports, never lower. Number 3 is thou shalt gather and display powerful testimony of your greatness. This is probably one of, if not the most powerful way to convince people to work with you. And we're going to talk more in a minute about how to get better testimonials. Number 4 is thou shalt exhort them to take action oft. So have calls to action on every page in multiple places. The next is thou shalt not bore them with trivial details, right? Don't talk about stuff that doesn't interest them or that isn't going to be relevant information for them. Again, don't try to teach them about the importance of web design. Instead, try to show them what you can do for them. The next is thou shalt remember that a picture is worth 1,000 parables. So rather than having endless paragraphs talking about your project, just show it to them. Show them pictures, have an image slider, or just have the entire website embedded within your web page. These are all going to be more effective than some huge long write-up about the case study. The next is thou shalt highlight important details like price and timeline. This is something that a lot of designers are nervous to do, to show their prices on their website. And if you don't want to get super specific, because of course pricing can depend on the size of the project and the client's needs, but you can at least put a ballpark or some sort of indication that lets them know that you're going to be a good fit, that your pricing is going to be somewhat in their ballpark. Number 8 is thou shalt address and resolve common doubts. So if there are common issues that people ask you about when you get on the phone with them, that means you should probably address those things on your website, on your case study pages. And finally, thou shalt demonstrate variation and versatility. So like I mentioned before, if you can have a wider variety of different types of work with different colors and fonts and styles, you're going to have a much higher chance of appealing to the needs of one of these prospects. Now, when you're working on your case study pages, I want you to think of them like a sales funnel. This is your opportunity to show people why they should hire you. So in these case study pages, you of course want to show off your great work. You want to prove results and show the results that you've gotten for those clients. You want to build trust. You want to address and resolve concerns. You want to give a sneak peek of your process and what it's going to be like to work with you. And then finally, you want to have a really strong call to action. And I'll show you what that looks like here. But first, let's talk about a bad example of a portfolio case study. I pulled this from a random portfolio, and so I don't want to tear this apart too much because I'm sure this designer does a great job. But this is a good example for us to start with. So you can see that the images are not really relevant to what the project is. You can see that it's a really boring title, Recipe Creation Tool. Now the subtext says, encouraging home cooks to share their recipes within the Kitchen Stories community. So this is a little bit confusing because I'm not really sure if we're pitching our services or the services of the client. And so we want to make sure that we're really clear about the fact that we built this website for a client, but the reason you're on this page is because we're trying to show you why we need to build one just like this for you. So a few things that you'll notice are missing is they haven't shown any work above the fold here in this first viewport. There's no call to action. We haven't shown them how we helped. There isn't a good SEO title that has keywords that will allow this page to rank. And there's not really any project details. And so this is a lot of wasted space above the viewport on this case study page. So we're going to scroll down and you can see that there are some more details here, but in reality, they're basically worthless, right? It's showing the role, which is product designer. Nobody cares about your role. It's showing how big the team was, the project type, and even the year. Those things aren't really important. If anything, it just dates this case study and it bores them with information that they don't need to know. Over here, I'm not really sure if this client overview is even relevant. It's talking about what Kitchen Stories, which is the client, what it is that they do. And again, nobody really cares. They just want to know what you did for them. And then finally, at the bottom of the second viewport, so after a few scrolls, they're finally showing their work. So again, a huge missed opportunity. And you can bet that probably about 75% of the page traffic never got down this far to see this work. So there's no testimonials, they haven't shown pricing, they haven't said anything about timelines, and they haven't shown the tools that they use. So there's basically no information that has been shared that's going to be relevant or interesting to the client. All right, so I'm going to jump over to a good example now. This is an example of my design portfolio, and this is something that I have created and designed and redesigned and worked over and over and over again to see what exactly works. And what you're going to find is it is very simple. It is nothing crazy. There are no fancy interactions or fancy designs. It really just gives people the basics, and that's it. So the first thing we have is an SEO keyword. The keyword is best dental website design. So I basically took a keyword that would allow me to rank this page on Google. The next thing I have is a solid title. The title is a dental website that brings in new patients. Next, we have a teaser paragraph that says Taylorview Dental came to us because their current website was horribly outdated and hadn't brought in any new patients in years. So we're highlighting a pain point there. And then it says we created a site that now generates 10 plus new patients per week. So you can see that this is speaking directly to whoever's reading this, saying, this is what we did for Taylorview Dental. We could probably do it for you too. The next thing we have are project details. So like I mentioned before, if you don't want to put the exact price for this project, you can use something like this that just shows the number of dollar signs. This is something that restaurants do a lot. They don't have to tell you exactly how much it's going to cost, but they can show you as far as a range of the most they could spend and the least they could spend about how much it's going to be. We also put that we built this in 5 weeks, and we showed the tools that were used, because this is something that while some people might not care, for others, they might like the fact that you're using the new, most up-to-date tools. Next, we have a strong call to action. Build me one, right? It's really straightforward, it's simple, and this is going to take people to a Calendly page where they can book a call. And then right off the bat, we are showing our work. Now you can see that only half of these images on the slider are showing. This is to hopefully catch people's attention and get them to scroll down a bit further. So we're trying to pull them down the page, right? So this slider is going to have screenshots of all of the best parts of the website. All right, so let's scroll down a little bit to the next section. Okay, so we've got our client testimonial. We already talked about how to make those things look nice. The other thing we have is a call to action with very descriptive images, right? It's showing me talking to a prospective client. It's going to help people envision what it's going to be like for them. And then we have the call to action, which is book a Zoom call. And I've got this little arrow that is a Lottie animation that continues to point at that call to action. The next thing we have is really catchy headers. So like I mentioned before, you don't want to just have some big, long, boring write-up about the project. You want to make it really interesting to the reader. So our headers are, we want something new and sexy, which is something that that client had said to me. And then also, you're busy, we got this, right? We're illustrating the fact that you don't have to do this work, we can take care of it, and we know how to do it right. A little bit further down, we have some results for site traffic, and we did this because we did do a little bit of SEO work for them, so this might not be relevant to you. But we also have this call to action as a sticky div. So once you reach that div block on the page, it's going to follow you all the way down. And this is virtually all I have on these case study pages. You'll see that there's not a lot of content, there aren't a ton of images. I haven't gone overboard with the design or the style. It's a very simple layout that is really, really effective. So the final thing that I want to talk about are testimonials. I want to bring it back to these testimonials because this is probably the biggest selling point for people. If you can have testimonials that say exactly what the prospect is looking for or what they're worried about, it's basically game over. They're going to hire you. So you are responsible for collecting these testimonials, and this is how you want to do that. You are going to set the expectation at the start of the project. You're going to ask them, hey, once we do a great job on your project, would you be willing to leave us a review? And you want to get a verbal yes from them. You want to get them committed early. And then throughout the project, you're going to give them little reminders. You can say things like, hey, this specific thing, this specific win would be awesome to include in your testimonial if you're okay with that. And again, get them to commit to that so they remember, and you can even write down a note about it. And the final thing that I would recommend, and this has been an absolute game changer for me, is writing a testimonial suggestion or a testimonial prompt. So rather than just leaving it up to the client to give you a testimonial, you're going to tell them exactly what you would like the testimonial to say. So this is the message that I send to my clients. I'm going to say, hey, Janet, we have loved working with you on this project, and I'm thrilled at the way that it turned out. I'm excited to write a case study about your project, and getting a testimonial from you would be a massive help. Please feel free to write whatever you would like about your experience. Also, if you'd be willing, it would be awesome if you could include something about our quick turnaround time, which was 4 weeks, and even the increased 55% in traffic, as these details could help us reach other awesome clients just like you. You can just write your testimonial in an email and send it back to me. As always, I really appreciate your time. So you can see that within this prompt, I'm giving her a little bit of guidance. I'm showing her what we would like it to say, and you can even include what you don't want it to say. And clients are going to appreciate this because sometimes they don't know what to say. They can't remember those specific wins that you had during the project. And so by reminding them of these, they're going to love you. They're going to say, absolutely, I'll send this over. You can make changes to my testimonial if you would like. Whatever you need, Peyton, that's great. And so by doing this, it's going to take your testimonials from being like the ones on the left here. We loved working with Pate Digital's team. I highly recommend them. And great service and very responsive. Huge thank you to the Pate Digital team. And it's going to turn them into testimonials like this one on the right, which says, we love our new website and we've seen a 55% increase in traffic since the launch. The Pate Digital team was extremely fast and completed our project in just 4 weeks. I highly recommend working with them. Those are the types of testimonials that are going to win you tons of new clients. So that's it for this training. I appreciate you watching, and if this is the type of video that you like, if you find these things helpful, I would love to maybe release a few more of our private trainings here on YouTube, but it does take a lot of time and effort. So if it's worth it to you, please hit that like button down below and even leave a comment. And if I get the feeling that enough of you are interested in it, I'll put out another one soon. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.